Okay guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to put together the Altitude A30. Firstly, thank you so much for buying the bike of us. In this video, I'm going to go through how to set everything correctly. When you pull the bike out of the box and take all the packaging off, all the bubble wrap, all the foam and stuff like that, this is your beginning stage. So this is how the bike should look. And from this point onwards, it's a very straightforward process. So let's dive in. So firstly, what we're going to do is lightly grease the threads on the stem bolts. So just, to tighten the bolts, you're going to need a 4mm Allen key. And what we're going to do is get handlebar within the cavity. Once the handlebar is in the cavity, what we're going to make sure is that there's no crossing over of the cables. So we've got our first cable here, which is our front hydraulic brake cable, our second cable, which is the shifter cable, and then we've got the rear hydraulic and the dropper seat burst cable following a clean path, no crossover into the right hand side of brake port. Next, we're going to put our faceplate on, and then we're going to install our bolts. We are not going to go crazy on the tightness of these bolts. So once we've got the 4 bolts in, we're just going to roughly center the handlebar and just tighten a couple of the bolts just to hold it in place. We're going to revisit the handlebar in a sec. Okay, and next step is installing the front wheel. So we've got our thru-axle, and we're just going to lightly grease that thru-axle first. At this point in time, it's also really important that you do not press the front brake lever, so leave that untouched. If you press it, the front brake pads are going to close up and it'll be harder to get the front wheel in there. You can get them apart using a flathead screwdriver, but just avoid doing that in the first place. So now we're going to just lift the front of the bike up, and the front wheel will just guide into position, and we're just going to let gravity do all the work. So you should not need to force the wheel in place. The key thing is to make sure that the disc and the brake pads are properly aligned. So if there's any resistance, it means you're doing something wrong. So take the wheel out, put it back in again, and take your time, be gentle. Next, we're going to install our thru-axle. Always insert it through the drive side. You might need to just lift the front of the bike a little bit and just jiggle that into position. But that will just slide in once you get the alignment correct. Like so. Now, a little bit of the axle is going to be exposed. Once it hits like a hard stop, it means now you've got to thread it the rest of the way in. Now, if you have a torque wrench, please use a torque wrench. If you do not have a torque wrench, make sure you have a good Allen key and you tighten until you feel resistance, and just a little bit more, like an 1/8 of a turn more, and you're done. So really important not to over tighten it because you may strip the head on that thru-axle. So once it's properly flattened, you will find that the front wheel and the fork will be as one. So there won't be any play, any movement there. It should just feel like a solid interface between the two parts there. Now that that's done, we're going to go back to our handlebar. So in this case, we're just going to loosen the bolts again that we tightened just a little bit. There's markings on the actual handlebar itself, and these will help you guide the handlebar in the centermost position. I like to look at the outside lines, so we've got a lot of lines on this side, barely any on this side, so we're going to move the handlebar across a little bit. Like so. The rotation of the handlebar is really important as well. So do not focus on the logos or the lines here. Simply focus on the back sweep and the up sweep. So we want to ensure that there's a good back sweep and good up sweep of the handlebar itself. We started, ignore that. This is the logo, these are the lines, ignore that. We want to move that forward like so. That is the position it should be in. Now, next, we are going to check the distance at the top and the bottom of the faceplate. So we want to make sure that the distances top and bottom are even. In this case, there's more gap at the bottom and there's less of a gap at the top. So we're going to loosen the top bolts to create more space, more gap, and tighten the bottom to create less of a gap. Next, we're going to move to our head stem bolts. So once you're happy with the alignment of the front tire and the stem, you tighten one a little bit, then the other a little bit, and then the other one again, and the other one again, until they're nice and tight. The torque on these bolts should be 5 Newton meters. All right, guys, so we've got the handlebars and the front wheel in place. Next, we're going to go for the pedals. So with pedals, you'll see 2 different types of axles or axle interfaces. One will have a flat section or a flat side, and the other one will be perfectly circular. Now, in either case, the important thing is you need to use a pedal washer, which is one of these. Now you'll see a rough side and a smooth side. The rough side will face the pedal. Sorry, the smooth side, let me just redo that a little bit. The smooth side will face the pedal. So you need a pedal washer. The pedal washer will have a smooth face and a rough face. The smooth side will always face the pedal. And now we begin installation. Now, it's really, really important that you identify what pedal is in your hand. Is it the left or the right? The right is going to be the drive side, the left, the non-drive side. Now, how you identify this is a couple of ways. One, it will say somewhere on the actual pedal platform. So in this case, we can see an R marked on the pedal platform, making it nice and easy. In most cases though, it'll be marked on the end of the axle, and it might only be in very, very small font. So just make sure you have a very good look and try and identify that. Now, if there's no markings and you can't identify it, this is the last step in identifying it. So if you take a pedal, you start threading it into the crank arm. Now, this I know is going to thread very easily because it's the right side, but if you're trying to thread it and it just isn't, the threads just aren't engaging, don't force it, give up, because it's probably the wrong side that you're threading in. So we see that quite a lot, so avoid doing that. There should be no force required to actually thread the pedal into the crank arm. And then you can do a bit of a back pedal as well. Now, just to make things easier, we're going to pop this guy in a floor stand. So, now these pedals require a 8mm Allen key at the back of the pedal axle. Now, when you're threading the pedal in, make sure that the pedal washer is sitting in its circular housing. That is the assembly of the Altitude A30 complete. Now, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to set the bike up properly. So things like rebound, compression, seat height, fore aft, control position, all of that. So we can see that the saddle on this one's a bit of a funky angle, and the controls haven't been set. So yeah, So if you hang around, yeah, we'll soon have that video done. And otherwise, thanks for watching.